Welcome to the Deeper Thinking podcast. The universe seems so precisely tuned for life. Materialism, the idea that everything, including the mind, can ultimately be explained by physical processes, has been the dominant framework of modern science. It assumes that if we break things down far enough, we'll eventually get to the full truth. But what if some aspects of reality don't fit neatly into this model? What if there's something deeper that we're missing? Philosopher Thomas Nagel explores this idea in his book Mind and Cosmos, arguing that our understanding of reality might be incomplete, especially when it comes to explaining consciousness, morality, and the structure of the universe. He challenges the prevailing assumption that the world can be fully understood through materialist reductionism, the belief that everything, including the mind, can ultimately be explained by physics and chemistry. Instead, he suggests that these deeply human experiences may point to fundamental aspects of reality that materialist science has overlooked. The most pressing issue in this debate is the nature of consciousness. Neuroscience has made great strides in mapping the brain, identifying the regions responsible for emotions, memory, and decision-making. Yet, for all its progress, it has failed to explain one central mystery: why conscious experience exists at all. The fact that we don't just process information like a machine, but actually feel things, pain, color, emotion, suggests that consciousness is not merely a computational function of the brain. Philosophers refer to this as the hard problem of consciousness. How can purely physical processes give rise to subjective experience? Materialist theories assume that, given enough time, science will close this gap. But Nagel argues that this assumption is unwarranted. If consciousness is something fundamentally different from physical matter, then no amount of studying neurons will ever fully explain it. This brings us to a broader question. If consciousness does not emerge from material complexity alone, then what does it tell us about reality? Nagel does not advocate for a return to supernatural explanations, but he does suggest that teleology, or goal-directedness, may be a fundamental aspect of nature. This idea, which was largely abandoned with the rise of mechanistic science, suggests that the universe is not a random collection of particles, but a system that tends toward complexity, life, and awareness. This does not mean that there is an intelligent designer behind it, but rather that the laws of nature may be structured in such a way that life and consciousness are natural outcomes rather than accidents. Materialist critics argue that invoking teleology without a clear mechanism is no better than appealing to divine intervention. Yet, one could argue that materialist explanations themselves rely on unprovable assumptions. Science operates on the belief that the universe is rational and comprehensible, that natural laws hold consistently across time and space, and that human reason is capable of uncovering these truths. But these principles are not empirically provable. They are philosophical assumptions that science takes for granted. If materialism requires certain fundamental assumptions about reality, is it not possible that teleology could be another foundational principle of existence? Nagel also challenges the materialist account of reason. If our cognitive faculties evolved solely through natural selection, then their primary purpose is not to discover truth, but to enhance survival. From this perspective, human reasoning is simply a set of adaptations that helped our ancestors navigate their environment, avoid danger, and secure resources. But if reason is just an evolved survival tool, then we must ask, can it be trusted to provide objective knowledge? If our belief in materialism itself is merely the result of evolutionary pressures, then how do we know it is true? This creates a paradox. Materialism, when taken to its logical conclusion, undermines its own credibility. This argument has roots in the work of philosopher Alvin Plantinga, who formulated what is known as the evolutionary argument against naturalism. If human reasoning is entirely shaped by evolutionary fitness rather than truth-tracking abilities, then we have no reason to assume our beliefs about science, philosophy, or anything else are objectively valid. Nagel does not fully endorse this view, but he acknowledges the tension within materialism. It assumes that our cognitive faculties are both products of blind evolutionary forces and reliable instruments for uncovering reality. Can both claims be true at the same time? A similar issue arises in the debate over morality. Materialist explanations of ethics typically argue that our moral instincts evolved because they conferred a survival advantage. Behaviors such as cooperation, reciprocity, and altruism helped early human societies thrive, making them more likely to pass on their genes. But if morality is just an adaptive trait, then it has no inherent truth, only practical usefulness. This means that moral values are not objectively real, they are simply habits encoded by evolution to promote group cohesion. Yet most people do not experience morality as a set of arbitrary survival instincts. We do not believe that kindness is good simply because it helped our ancestors survive. We believe that certain things are truly right or wrong, regardless of their evolutionary origins. If this intuition is correct, then morality cannot be reduced to evolutionary psychology alone. It must be something deeper, something woven into the fabric of existence itself. Nagel's argument implies that moral values, like consciousness and reason, may be fundamental aspects of reality rather than emergent properties of matter. Another area where materialism faces difficulties is the fine-tuning of the universe. The fundamental constants of physics, the strength of gravity, the charge of an electron, the rate of cosmic expansion, are precisely calibrated in a way that allows for the existence of complex structures, including galaxies, planets, and life. Even a slight alteration in these values would render the universe incapable of supporting any form of complexity. The sheer improbability of this arrangement has led some scientists to propose the multiverse hypothesis, the idea that there are countless other universes, each with different physical laws, and we just happen to exist in one that allows for life. The multiverse theory, however, is untestable and purely speculative. There is no direct empirical evidence for other universes, and if they are beyond our ability to observe, then the theory remains an assumption rather than a scientific discovery. In many ways, the multiverse explanation is an attempt to preserve materialism by removing the need for any deeper explanation of why our universe appears so precisely structured. But what if fine-tuning is not a coincidence? What if it points to an underlying principle that favors complexity and order? Nagel does not argue for a supernatural designer, but he does suggest that the universe may have a built-in tendency toward life and consciousness. This is not a religious claim, but a philosophical hypothesis about the nature of reality. If the physical laws of the universe are structured in such a way that life and mind naturally emerge, then materialism's view of the cosmos as a purposeless machine may be incomplete. The challenge is to explore this possibility without falling into mysticism or pseudoscience. The real significance of mind and cosmos is not in the answers it provides, but in the questions it forces us to ask. If materialism cannot fully explain consciousness, reason, morality, or fine-tuning, then we may need to reconsider the nature of reality itself. Every major intellectual shift in history has begun with questioning the assumptions that seemed obvious at the time. The idea that the Earth was the center of the universe, that time was absolute, that species were fixed and unchanging, each of these beliefs was eventually overturned by deeper inquiry. Perhaps materialism is approaching a similar turning point. If consciousness is more than just brain activity, if morality is more than an evolutionary instinct, if the universe itself appears structured in a way that suggests an intrinsic order, then we may be standing at the threshold of a new way of understanding existence. The next great scientific revolution may not come from discovering new particles or forces, but from realizing that reality itself contains dimensions we have yet to fully comprehend. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Deeper Thinking podcast, an audio essay read by me, Holly, your digital narrator. To learn more about the subjects covered today, check out the links in the show notes. Until next time.